Hi folks, Florida Man here. Today, it is my pleasure to bring you my recollections on a game I played on WebDiplomacy with the good folks from Nexus. Also probably some of the not-so-good folks, we'll get into that. The game was officially called Nexus League's Live Press Game 005, but I have renamed it Flying by the Seat of My Lederhosen for reasons that will become clear, and because that first name is very generic. The game was breathtakingly quick because we set it up to have 5-minute turns and we also gave it an actual time limit. I actually wanted to record my recollections on the game live, but it was too fast-paced for that to be possible. I'm kind of glad I didn't record my recollections live though, because to be honest, there would be a lot of profanity in that live recording for me to edit out. Frankly, this was one of the most frustrating games of diplomacy I've ever played, and it was only as the end drew near that I could see the humor in this game and appreciate it. And in retrospect, it's a lot funnier. Please feel free to laugh at the craziness of the game. So, I played as Germany, and because this was a 5-minute turns game, I expected playing as any one of the Central Powers would be somewhat more challenging than usual. I didn't have the same quality of communication, obviously, as I'm normally accustomed to at this point in my diplomacy career, given the very sharp deadlines. I had time to say hello to both England and France, but I was very annoyed that France was insistent upon a bounce rather than a DMZ in Burgundy. That got us off to the wrong foot. It was my preference to work with France until he started talking. France seems to have made a similar arrangement with Italy, which was a waste of my and Italy's moves and prevented me from having any influence over who would get Belgium. I made an otherwise fairly conventional opening where I took Denmark. In retrospect, I think a situation like this might justify opening to Holland instead of Denmark. Austria made the bizarre choice to open anti-Italy, while Russia and Turkey seemed to open anti-Austria. Italy opened in a very normal, boring Italy way. In fall, I decided to commit to England since France had given me a relatively hard time, so I bounced Russia out of Sweden at England's request, and also at England's suggestion, I built a fleet and an army instead of 2 armies. I think this was actually a trap, because as you can see, England followed up his fall moves, including a convoy to Belgium, with builds of a fleet in Edinburgh and an army in London, which is about as pro-French as England can build. France built 2 new armies, so I appeared set already for a game that would be nasty, brutish, and short. Austria's bad early gamble was repaid by Russia occupying Vienna, while Turkey took Greece, and Austria unsuccessfully attempted to bounce Russia in Romania. I can only describe the Austrian plan in 1901 as an absolute and unmitigated disaster. In spring 1902, we see Austria continue to lose ground, albeit this time at least partially due to bad luck, with Russia failing to move to Galicia as Austria clearly must have anticipated in favor of attacking me by moving to Prussia. This results in Russia walking peacefully into Budapest, while Turkey forced his way into Serbia. At the same time, Italy was coming to join Austria on the anti-juggernaut front. They were at least set to make a stand, if nothing else. In the West, I grappled with England, France, and Russia at the same time. I could do this all day. Not really. The key in this situation is to somehow peel one of them away from the others, or they can quickly crush you to death between them, so that's what I'm doing with my very limited diplomatic speaking time. I'm trying to get one of them to break away and attack the others. Tactically, I would like to say I'm at least holding my own. I'm breaking into Burgundy and Belgium here, even as France gets into Ruhr and England into Holland. I support Russia into Sweden because I think he's the one I can win over, although he sort of double-crosses me by moving into Prussia. In fall, I lose Belgium and regain Holland, basically resetting the status quo to what it was before the exchange began. That's a result I'm actually pretty proud of. At the same time, France is moving against England, including occupying the North Atlantic Ocean and building a new fleet. And it's my hope that this means the war between us is over, although I don't trust France to actually leave me alone. Austria clings on to life by taking Greece with Italian support and retaining Trieste, although he destroys the fleet there, which I think makes sense for his situation, where armies are going to be much more useful in conducting that last stand I mentioned. In spring 1903, having failed to convince Russia to back out of Prussia, and failed to get satisfactory responses from France, I try to work with England. You see, I support him into Sweden now, while the rest of my units move defensively against both Russia and France. France occupies Liverpool. He is basically on easy street right now. Italy in the south is still seemingly trying to keep Austria alive, but it's futile. Turkey overwhelms them in Greece, and Russia repositions to secure Trieste and Fall. In Fall, Austria fails to enter orders once, which is apparently enough to place him in civil disorder on web diplomacy, and he doesn't enter any more orders after this. I will highlight this, although I'm not going to name names here, but if the Austrian player is watching this, please consider this video my gentle reminder that you don't stop moving the pieces until the game is over. Again, I'm not going to name names, but this is not the first or the second time that I've been in a game with this player, and he abruptly decided he had to leave. This is not respectful of the other player's time. Don't join a game like this unless you have the time and the willingness to enter orders, even if you start gunboating. That's more acceptable than not entering orders. Fortunately, he was just about dead here already, so his decision had very little impact on the game itself. In the north, England and I had a somewhat complicated plan to secure both Sweden and the German homeland together, and we ended up succeeding in neither. England walked into Baltic Sea, thinking he would be cutting Russian support, while I lost Berlin. In the west, France and I are stonewalling each other. You can understand at this point, I expect, how I would begin to be frustrated with this game. In spring 1904, I attempt self-defense again, and both Russia and France reposition to better surround me, while England withdraws from Baltic Sea to retake Sweden. The only bright spot for me is that Italy is moving to attack France from the south, which I've been encouraging. In the east, Turkey appears to be stabbing Russia as well, with Italian assistance. In fall, Turkey furthers this invasion and captures Sevastopol, causing Russia to largely withdraw from my borders. Italy takes Marseille and positions to take Iberia. England and I are still fighting France, who is unwisely focusing all his attention on us, despite being very vulnerable to Italy in the south. I'm pleased to have successfully recaptured Belgium this year, although I can't build because all of my centers are occupied. In spring 1905, this very pointless fight continues, with France continuing to be invaded by Italian units. In the south, Italy also flips on Turkey and starts working with Russia there. Despite the pointless fight that England and I continue to be in with France, England tries to sneak into Denmark here, and I bounce with him by pure luck. In fall, Italy captures Portugal and mid-Atlantic Ocean while gifting me Marseille, which was a very genuinely generous decision on his part. I just had to ask. France is now winning the part of the struggle that he's fighting against me, in part because England again bounces me in Denmark, preventing me from repositioning and forcing me to devote a unit to defending that single center indefinitely. Now, if not earlier, I hope you can see my frustration. At no point have I backstabbed England in any way. I've been trying to work with him since the beginning, and I ticked off Russia by bouncing him in Sweden early on, as well as continuing to try collaborating with England against France, and with France still alive and Italy creeping north, England is doing this ridiculous nonsense. So now I've lost Belgium and Holland, and have very little prospect of regaining Berlin or being able to build anytime soon. I am kept somewhat steady by the charity of Italy, with whom I begin coordinating fairly closely. I encourage him to move as far north as possible. In spring 1906, Italy continues to invade the West, now with my full-throated support. France, England, and Russia work together to destroy the unit I'd been using to bounce England in Denmark here, and it's lucky that I keep my hair short or I'd be pulling it out at this point. The best revenge, though, is ensuring that my enemies are destroyed, so I'm glad I decided to throw in my lot with Italy. In fall, England actually takes Denmark. Finally, that greedy jerk. For this one center, you've been driving me crazy for these last 2 years. The bright side is that I'm able to take it out on France by capturing Paris. France makes an excellent punching bag here. In the south, Italy, Russia, and Turkey remain an unsolvable tangle. In spring 1907, England continues to achieve gains by going for French-controlled Liverpool, which may have been with French support, I don't know. Considering that Italy is attacking both of them, I wouldn't be surprised if France agreed to this. In the south, Italy appears to be repositioning to go after Russia again. And in fall, that switch does happen, but Italy switching sides did not do much. It's as if the three of them are in a fairly sturdy equilibrium, where someone switching sides doesn't really make much difference, as long as everyone knows who's with who. In this season, I recapture Belgium, and by extension, much of my former glory. It's not like there was ever that much of it, but somehow we're rebuilding the German Empire in France and Belgium. The game has gone all the way from annoying to insane, and I am having fun again at this point. In spring 1908, Italy takes Vienna from Russia, but Russia and Turkey also attack Serbia together, and it seems that switching sides repeatedly there is finally starting to catch up with Italy. Russia and England go after me in my homeland again, taking Kiel this time. At the same time, I lose Paris and Belgium, and I take Holland. With fall, I trade with England and Russia, regaining Berlin while losing Kiel and regaining Belgium while losing Holland. Of course, even if I managed to net a new center, I still wouldn't be able to build, with all my home centers occupied. To the south, Italy and Turkey are clearly fighting together now, and they overwhelm the limited Russian forces that remained in the Balkans. With spring 1909, Italy is no longer willing to take risks to go after England as I would like. He's just trying to consolidate his final position, which I can understand and sympathize with, but it does make this season rather boring. I was trying to find some way we could convoy France into England, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. The only really good thing is that Russia seems set to lose more ground and end up smaller than me by the end. In fall, Italy helps me retake Paris. France is eliminated, and although I had forgiven him by the end, I can't say it's not well deserved. In the east, Italy and Turkey fight over their shared spoils of war inconclusively, albeit with Italy having a clear advantage. In spring 1910, I finally retake Kiel and completely remove Russia from the German homeland. This minor triumph feels like it's a long time coming, and it's sweet even though it comes at the same time that England retakes Belgium yet again. Italy continues to win out over Turkey in the east, although Turkey bizarrely ends up in Silesia from all the pulling back he's forced to do. And in fall 1910, the final season, Italy takes an English center at last, Norway, and takes Paris back from me, which I can hardly complain about. I'm pleased to regain Belgium and hold all my home centers, which means I did better than Russia or France. Sadly, I did not have enough time to crush the English underneath my heel, but I suppose some goal has to be left for next time. As you could probably tell from the way I recalled much of this game, it was a frustrating one. There's a reason why I'm reluctant to agree to a 5-minute turn game. These are insane, absolutely bonkers games, where loyalty is neither rewarded nor available, the best-laid plans are punished, and short-sighted stabs might end up looking wise and strategically savvy in retrospect just because people don't have enough time to actually make good decisions. It's like downgrading the strategic complexity of chess down to the strategic complexity of rock, paper, scissors. The psychological complexity and negotiating in diplomacy is the heart of the game, and it's almost skipped here in favor of a game that could technically be finished in an evening because of these time limits. I hope you enjoyed this game. Someone had to, and my enjoyment level was probably not sufficient, except for that by the end I learned to stop worrying and enjoy the insanity to an extent. If you liked this, reward me with a like, a subscribe, and a comment. Subscribing and commenting in particular promotes this channel, while liking is mainly just a way of saying you want more content like this. You may also want to consider joining the Alligator Army by clicking the link to participate in my Patreon in the video description to gain access to a world of exclusive Diplomacy Podcast episodes and occasional videos that are only accessible through my Patreon, as well as early access to all YouTube content. At the lowest level, it's only $1 per month. Until next time, Florida Man, out.